Video has been created for entertainment purposes only. Nothing in this video should be taken as hard, concrete evidence, and everything is left up to your own interpretation.
The reason I like conspiracies is a treasure hunt to figure out what's really going on.
Could Tom DeLonge truly be hiding information in his lyrics and artwork? And if so, when did that start?
There's all these things that I'll do that no one knows, but with Boxcar Racer, it's like, how do I start walking in that direction and bringing some of those things out?
Album that caused a lot of tension between Tom DeLonge and Mark Hoppus, essentially because Blink-182 was literally just flying sky high from Enema of the State, and Tom wanted more.
Sorry about Tom. Sorry about it. I think we all agree it was better when he quit the band. I did shit you didn't know about. I did shit you didn't know about. It's important.
Boxcar Racer definitely had more fallout than expected. Let's dive in and take a look at some clues. Starting with the album art, you guys can see this blood red logo with an imprint of what looks to be a human. Quick Google search and you will notice that after nuclear bombs explode, they do leave shadows of the people left behind in certain areas, and this is almost 100% match between the two. For those of you that are still not convinced, a B-29 bomber by the name Boxcar in 1945 did indeed drop Fat Man on Nagasaki. 1933 and 1936 are two dates that get complicated because it is undocumented and just word of mouth. 1933 seems to be a crash in Italy, and 1936 was a crash in the Black Forest, both of which apparently were given to the Nazis at the time, where the Nazis then took the technology and started reverse engineering, getting themselves, give or take, 100 years ahead of the United States when it comes to technology.
From what folks pieced together, Mussolini and Hitler had this pact. Italy shared tech with Germany during the war. Some theories float that the crashed craft got passed to the Nazis for reverse engineering, but Panotti's files don't spell it out directly.
Could this have been the start or rumors of the Die Glocken, and also maybe why the Nazis did so much experimental testing on people like twins or telepathy or pushing the bodies to the limits when it comes to gas chambers or even radiation? 5 months after Hitler offed himself, essentially became the end of World War II, September 2nd, 1945. Nazis ended up fleeing Germany and moving down to places like Argentina and/or Antarctica.
The idea that Nazis fled to Argentina or Antarctica after September 2nd, 1945 is a mix of fact and myth. Some high-ranking officers did escape to South America, especially Argentina, through networks like rat lines run by sympathizers and the Vatican. Antarctica is more speculative. Operation High Jump in 1946 sparked conspiracy theories about secret bases, but there's no solid proof Nazis built anything down there.
But we have a big missing piece of information. Where did the technology go?
No solid info on that. The story's fuzzy. Panotti mentioned it went to the US after the war, but nothing pins down where. Some say Wright Field in Ohio, because that's where a lot of Nazi tech landed. But it's all speculation. No docs confirm it.
July 20th, 1945, Operation Overcast started, also known as Paperclip. Before we even got permission for Paperclip to be started, we actually had 1,600 different German scientists on their way under Project Paperclip coming to the United States of America before Truman even actually approved this information. Oh, why the rush? Operation Overcast quickly changed into Operation Paperclip, and if you're thinking what I'm thinking, you're probably thinking Roswell.
What I believe crashed at Roswell was, well, I believe it was German from Argentina, but it had hallmarks and technology based on alien technology.
Actual I-beam showing the word Euphoria,
which means freedom in ancient Greek.
So this document honestly is a bit sketchy. I feel like a portion of it does connect back to Roswell really well. Meanwhile, the other portion of this paperwork seems to connect back to Tom DeLonge on the Joe Rogan podcast. So it's very weird. But what I found super interesting in another document was specifically talking about the Alpha Omega symbol and Egyptian writing, and that also connects us back to the egg-shaped UFO, so that's taking us back to Jake Barber as well as Lue Elizondo. Listen.
Have you ever noticed, seen, heard of, or heard whispers of any type of language or symbols apparent on these craft?
Yes.
If I show you a picture, can you confirm or deny?
It depends.
This is an image. This is zoomed in.
When I was at the Pentagon, I spent considerable time researching ancient script. And hieroglyphics and symbology and even cuneiform, and to see if there was any similarity on what was seen on the outside of these vehicles, which appeared to be some sort of glyph or rune, if you will. I am not familiar with this actual one, but
you are familiar with
absolutely,
there being symbols on the outside of the craft.
Yeah, which, by the way, is significant. That means something.
So, the egg-shaped UFO, is it an actual UFO craft, or is it a metaphor as an Easter egg to be paying attention to some of the clues that have been dropped thus far? That's up to you to decide, but where were we? Oh yes. Project Paperclip has 2 levels of security. Number 1, the one that everybody knows, the one that we brought Wernher von Braun over to the United States of America for, is the leg up in the space race 1969 to the moon. If the Germans actually did discover UFO craft, the United States is going to want a piece of the pie. So we're going to take level 2 and put it under hush-hush terms. Meanwhile, pull apart the information that the Nazis have been working on for the past years to get ourselves ahead of the technology. Interesting. This is where the story becomes a little hypothetical and theoretical. Essentially, the paper trail grows cold, but let's put our thinking caps on for a second. We have started Operation Paperclip, and we have 2 sections. Number 1, again, getting to space, but number 2, trying to figure out what in the world technology are the Nazis playing with that put them that far ahead. Well, if we would have squeezed the information out of them and found out that maybe, just maybe, they hid part of it in Antarctica, well, what would the United States do? Probably go get it? Project High Jump was commanded by Richard E. Byrd, whose goal was to fly over Antarctica, map and chart out the specific area, meanwhile testing specific equipment for the military. Fun fact, Operation High Jump became fully loaded with 13 ships, 4,700 men. We're talking military equipment up the yin-yang. There was 82 members of Freemasons, and 60 of them were also from a particular group, which was the highest of high masonry. Operation High Jump was prepared for 6 to 8 months to live in Antarctica, but apparently something happened and they had to come home in 3. This was for a testing and charting trip. But it got interesting. Byrd apparently kept a journal on his adventures over Antarctica. Byrd had claimed that while he was flying over Antarctica, a UFO-shaped craft flew up next to him and took over complete control of his airplane. He said there may have been a Nazi symbol on the side of this craft, guided him down into a hole in the ice where apparently he met with something or someone known as the Master. The Master was very unhappy with the power that humankind had just recently stumbled into and told him that we needed to go back and tell all of the people not to use it. If this is true, could the Master have specifically been talking about Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Now, the president at the time, who E. Byrd would have had to speak to, was President Truman. That was April 12th, 1945 to January 20th, 1953. What happened during Truman's presidency? If you guessed Kenneth Arnold and Roswell, you would be correct. Following this, Eisenhower started January 20th, 1953 and ran to January 20th, 1961, and those dates do seem to have suspicion because we have Eisenhower, who apparently may or may not have signed a document with the UFO phenomenon. Here's some dates you might want to pause to read. Fears say 7 years after Operation High Jump, Eisenhower ended up signing a document on February 20th, 1954. However, problem, you see, theorists say that Eisenhower signed a document when he was in California during a golfing tournament. There was some missing time that happened where he was gone for 3 hours. However, Tom DeLonge ended up posting on his guitar this, and I quote, "In the early 50s, the best and brightest met with the others in the NMCC under the Pentagon. We had to decide one of 3 things. Do we surrender? Do we go to nuclear war, or hopefully something in the middle?" You see, the interesting thing is the Pentagon is not located in California, so we got a mismatched piece of information. Let's keep digging. To Eisenhower's granddaughter, MJ-12 ended up signing the paperwork.
You know, Eisenhower signing treaties was not Eisenhower. That power was divested into the hands of MJ-12. That in 1952, an unconditional surrender agreement took place, which really took the power away from the president. There was like 20 levels of top secret information that was not accessed by the president, but through the help of Althor, he was able to understand what really took place. So Admiral Byrd tried to invade the Nazi underground base in Antarctica, and the Nazi occupation there, that did not go well. And then in 1952, that's when the UFOs flew over the Capitol. This was when there was an unconditional surrender agreement. That was actually what they are claiming to be the Greada Treaty. And all of the members of Congress were a part of this unconditional surrender agreement.
Did you hear her claiming to be? That might be a key word we need to focus in on.
The Sol Foundation alleges in a report the Eisenhower administration issued a directive giving UFO decision-making the same status as nuclear war power.
So there's some subset of records that the Congress has found evade this mandatory declassification review, and they're stating that that's due to the Atomic Energy Act of 1954.
The Atomic Energy Act of 1952 wasn't signed until 1954. It passed Congress in 1952, but President Eisenhower signed the final version into law on August 30th, 1954. The Atomic Energy Act laid out rules for controlling atomic energy. Think peaceful uses like power plants, but also military stuff like nukes. It created the Atomic Energy Commission to oversee it all, set up security classifications for sensitive info, and basically kept everything under tight government wraps, which folks later claimed let them stash away secret programs like UAP reverse engineering under those classified shields. The real legacy programs, the decades-old crash retrieval and reverse engineering ones, sit way deeper, often shielded under the Atomic Energy Act as restricted data. And they're what people mean by the true buried secrets.
So are we talking about the legacy program here? You see, David Grusch under oath never specifically said the legacy program. He just said he was well aware of a multi-decade program where we were reverse engineering UAPs. Now, Hal Puthoff, in a separate interview, did refer back to David Grusch under oath speaking about this, and he claimed that it was the legacy program. You see, the problem here is the Atomic Energy Act was signed twice, and both of which has photo evidence proof of it being taken place inside of the Oval Office. So that means that the California theory kind of gets a little bit debunked unless I'm missing something, as well as being underneath the Pentagon. However, Laura Eisenhower did specify that it was taken under the hands of Majestic 12. Majestic 12 essentially comes with its own theories, but is essentially a group of like 12 individuals who work together who had really high placement in the government, even including men such as Robert Oppenheimer, yes, the godfather himself of the nuclear bomb. So let's go ahead and double check Laura Eisenhower's story by dotting some T's and crossing off some I's. Let's go ahead and refresh ourselves with the top 12 people on the Majestic 12 list, and you guys are going to notice it's a very interesting group of people. Some might even say it's the best and brightest group of people available in the US government at that time. And can we talk about the fact that Dwight D. Eisenhower specifically has a briefing document on MJ-12, and not to mention the specific event that was in the documents briefed to Eisenhower, as well as in Lue Elizondo's book, Imminent. Interesting correlation, wouldn't you say? And how dare I forget about the meeting. Daily appointments for Harry Truman was Wednesday, September 24th, 1947 at 11:30 a.m. We have Honorable James Forrestal, Secretary of Defense V. Bush, for those of you who don't know, actually overseeing the Manhattan Project, and daily appointment for Harry S. Truman on Tuesday, August 1st, 1950, which happened to be off the record. Does it even matter? According to the FBI documents, it says bogus, right? Well, it might matter. According to the hoodie, you see we have the same exact text on the bottom right hand side of the corner as we're matching up with the Majestic 12 paperwork. Not only the same text, but also the same font. And also in the upper right hand corner of the hoodie, we're gonna also see the word secret with an X through it. And when we correlate that back to the Majestic 12 paperwork, we also have an X through it. Coincidence? Or connection. Also, for those of you who know the documents, you've probably seen the word magic pop up more than once. Well, so I recently stumbled across an article about Tom DeLonge's most impactful songs that he ever wrote, and one of the songs was Aliens Exist. I'm just gonna read a small bit of it here, but it says, people were celebrating the song like I'm some sort of conspiracy prophet or something. I can't really talk about it, but beyond the bits about me, there's something very important in this song, so if you find what it is, it will solve every problem in the world. 12 majestic lies. You know, personally, I believe it has to do with dark and scary, ordinary explanation, information, nice to know you, paranoia, where's my mother, bio father, but I'm just a conspiracy theorist, so who's counting? Anyways, was there actually a legacy program wrapped up under the Atomic Energy Act? And if so, what is the legacy program? Now, if you're looking for a very detailed explanation of what the legacy program is, Lue Elizondo in The Age of Disclosure at 43 minutes and 54 seconds will tell you all about it, but I'll give you an overview here. Essentially, the key players inside of the legacy program are the CIA, as well as the United States Air Force and defense contractors and the Department of Energy. The CIA's job is essentially to oversight the entire program itself. Meanwhile, the defense contractors, people like Lockheed Martin, are all exploiting the technology. So we've all heard of Lockheed Martin and Skunk Works, but one company that probably has slipped your mind is NASIC. Before we get into what NASIC specifically is, I want you to pay close attention. If you do go back and watch what happens about when Lue gives you the brief overview in The Age of Disclosure, remember, he talks about the CIA, the US Air Force, the Department of Energy, and the defense contractors, but in his explanation, he talks about three. He covers CIA, Department of Energy, and defense contractors, and skips over United States Air Force. So, when we go look up what NASIC is, it brings us here. The National Air and Space Intelligence Agency. And one more thing. Chris Bledsoe recently tweeted about this specific logo. Very suspicious. Let's go ahead and understand a little bit about NASIC and the interesting things that they do.
NASIC, the National Air and Space Intelligence Center. We lead the nation in scientific and technical intelligence. We are the only people who do what we do.
You have experts on various systems, various phenomena.
The stuff I get to work on is only known by about 20 people. And we actually call it magic and sorcery in the office.
Magic and sorcery in the office? What are they playing with? The defense contractors are Lockheed Martin, Skunk Works, and NASIC. Last, but certainly not least, the Department of Energy. This essentially his job is to handle all of the UAP craft or nuclear material itself. And if it's classified as a UAP, it gets classified in its own nuclear division, essentially hidden from Congress as well as the president.
I now know categorically that the Tic Tac is Lockheed Martin technology.
Okay.
Why are we being lied to?
So, knowing all of this information that you know now, is it possible to say that this song still means the same to you?
All the small things, true care.
Do I have your attention now?
Every bit of information they're putting out has the spin. It's a threat to the national security. Our sovereignty has been invaded. It's the kind of brainwashing that's already started to try to convince the public there is an alien threat. You know, Werner von Braun, who invented the rocket for Adolf Hitler, on his deathbed, he said to a member of my team who was